Good afternoon, Catskills, and welcome to the Soul Traveler Healing Journey Show with your host, Kevin Macevis, the Soul Traveler, and Nell Rebo-Tomlinson, my also fellow Soul Traveler and engineer. How are you today, Nell?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, that's good. We have a beautiful day in Roxbury, New York, and an incredible show about eyes. So for all you folks out there that have eye issues, you definitely are wanting to listen to this show, because we are going to have on today a very interesting doctor, an eye doctor that treats eye diseases with acupuncture, and a special kind of acupuncture developed by him and some of his colleagues, as well as nutritional support, which is totally different than most doctors are going to suggest when you go there and have problems with either macular degeneration or nearsightedness or farsightedness. And it's amazing, because I have been through this treatment with a colleague of Dr. Rosenfarb, and I had a 60% improvement in 7 days. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you author and holistic eye doctor, Andy Rosenfarb. Andy, are you there?
I am there. Can you hear me, Kevin?
I hear you fine. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show, because it's the only thing that's ever helped me with macular degeneration, and I've been to dozens of doctors, regular AMA doctors, that tell me there's no cure for dry macular degeneration. How is that possible?
That's true. Well, it's possible because there's currently no drug, and there's no surgical procedure that they have available. But as we know, conventional biomedicine is part of the large system of world medicine, but that's not all there is. So inside of conventional biomedicine, they're true. That is a truth that in their box, there's nothing that they can do drug or procedure-wise to help these individuals.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a real shame, because that's not the only disease that doctors will tell you, that kind of information. You have, like, inoperable cancer. They tell you go home and get your act together and stuff. What is the problem with traditional AMA medicine in terms of actually working something out to heal instead of just treat diseases?
Well, you said it just right there. I think that one of the issues are, they're looking for a drug. The second thing is it's a kind of narrow. Let me back up for a minute. So conventional biomedicine has really moved from general practitioners. Like when I grew up, there was like a family doctor who saw everybody for everything. Now it's very, very specialized, as most of us know. And which is great, because it takes some of the burden and people get more areas of expertise, especially in fields like ophthalmology. But what happens is you lose perspective of the whole body. The more fragmented you get, the more focus you get on one specific area, you start to lose perspective of what's going on with the whole body. So the more, myopic we get, or just like limited in terms of just focusing on just the eyes. Like when you go to the eye doctor, most of the time they're looking at just your eyes. They're not really taking into account your diet, your habit, your lifestyle, your emotions, any epigenetic factors, environmental factors that are going on. So there's really a deficiency in taking a global look at what's going on, not only with the disease process itself, but each individual patient.
That's so true, and it's so opposite in Asia.
Yes.
Where they look at everything globally. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting, because you're applying Asian techniques that are working for things that are not working in traditional medicine in this country, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Tell us, what kind of diseases do you treat with the micro acupuncture?
So So if you look at ophthalmology, it's kind of a huge, everybody says, I specialize in eyes, I specialize in ophthalmology. But even ophthalmology as a specialization is huge. There's so many areas and branches. My expertise, I tend to focus on retinal and optic nerve, more neurodegenerative conditions, either acute conditions like eye stroke or retinal injuries, retinal detachment, acute optic neuritis, things like that, or degenerative conditions like we discussed macular degeneration, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, chronic dry eye, cataracts, stuff like that. So really focusing on these long-term progressive degenerative conditions that conventional medicine has little, if anything, to offer folks who are struggling with these conditions.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of improvement have you seen across the board, say, in something like nearsightedness?
Well, we've seen a huge swing of different results from patient to patient, depending on the condition and where they're at. With things like nearsightedness, we get great results. More the issues with refraction, which is again, we're looking near and far. We do a lot like eye exercises. We do some acupuncture. We take some of the strain off the muscles of the eye and help them to relax a little bit, so that allows accommodation. We do eye exercise to flex the ciliary the ciliary muscles in the eyes, which usually can get tight when we deal with things like presbyopia. People around 40, 45 start to see that, holding things in front of them, they're going to need to hold them a little further because they can't really see too well. So that's a result of the lens of the eye starting to harden up a little bit, as well as the ciliary bodies. All muscles in our bodies get tight as we age, and the eye muscles are not exempt from that. So if we're doing eye exercises to keep those muscles in shape and functional, then we won't experience some of these like aging eye conditions.
So
wow.
I would like to actually ask a question for the listener who isn't necessarily familiar with the different afflictions to the eye. So what is nearsighted? Yeah. What does it actually mean to be nearsighted or to be farsighted?
So we have nearsighted and farsighted. It's actually opposite than you might think. So if you're nearsighted, it's having trouble seeing far away, and farsighted means trouble. You're having a harder time seeing close up. So, and then as we age, we have something called presbyopia, where our near vision starts to decrease because of that flexing of those muscles. So we have to have things like readers and cheaters, and we get these like little prescription reading glasses to help us out a little bit. So there's a distinction between people having a hard time seeing in distance, which is more of a myopia situation, and then we have a condition where people have a little bit of a harder time seeing close up. And the close-up reading is usually what comes along with age.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much a natural progression that's going to happen with most people. But is it possible to slow that down and even maybe prevent it from happening?
It can. So by using, again, eye exercise and different vitamins and supplements that will keep the body moist and hydrated, because aging is a process of dehydration and oxidative stress. So what happens is those muscles in the lens get hard, right? Aging, when we dry out and we get dehydrated, we get hard. So the muscles, the tendons, and ligaments get harder. So we want to keep them soft and supple. So we do things like make sure we stay hydrated, stay off like energy drinks or a lot of coffee that can dehydrate us. Anything that's really inflammatory, like alcohol or even certain types of medications. Standing in front of screens for a really long time. And look, we're in 2019. Everybody's using their phones all the time and their screens and, computers and stuff. But we need to protect our eyes, use it from the blue light that's emitted from the screen. So using things like blue light protection, either on your screens and or protective eyewear, can really make a big difference.
Well, what effect can that blue light have on you if you're, say, at a screen, say, for 6 hours a day? What can you expect to
well, it's similar to UV radiation in the sense that it accelerates the aging. It's a stress on the eye. It's a light stress where our eyes, what's happened is technology has advanced really fast. over the last 100 years, even with computers the last 10 to 15 years. So our bodies, our physiology is not evolving fast enough to keep up with the technology stresses. So things like blue light is something that we have to deal with a little bit from the sun, but we've never in all of history had to deal with, our eyes have not, and our brains have not had to deal with the stress of such enormous amount of blue light coming from screens. So that's, our bodies, I'm sure, will adapt to some level, but through that process, we want to kind of give it a rest a little bit. What blue light does is it behaves similarly to UV light, where it just kind of, it stresses the eyes out, and it causes accelerated oxidative stress on the retina and the macula and the optic nerve. So that, again, oxidative stress will cause accelerated aging. And it can also be pro-inflammatory. Too much light flickering from blue light can actually stress the eye out. And when you strain the eye, you can get some inflammation, headache, eye tension, stuff like that.
Wow, that is totally amazing. Now, back in the day, I was a record producer and had a 24-track automated recording studio. Actually had the Blood, Sweat, and Tears recording studio in New City, New York for many years back in the late 70s, early 80s, worked with a lot of famous artists. But I remember the monitors back then. I used to have a 24-inch monitor, two monitors that were 4 feet long CRTs. And I would sit maybe 6 feet away at the other end of the board. And when those things blinked, I could feel that radiation. So I know that was bad, and that probably had a lot to do with, aging eyes. But the new monitors today are plasma. And how much radiation do they put out compared to the CRTs?
Exponentially more.
Holy
and they're evolving constantly.
Holy moly, I would have thought it would have been less.
Oh, the new monitors?
Yeah, the new monitors.
I think that they've gotten filtered. They've probably got controls, the control better, so they have like a filter. It's almost like a catalytic converter, the equivalent of that. But it's the brightness. Like the brain and the visual system is just not used to that. And it's not only it's the prolonged time we spend on it. Right. You know what I mean? So even when you were in your recording studios, you weren't like gazing at those and hanging out in front of them for 10 hours a day. I mean, maybe you were, but they weren't like at full capacity for 10 hours a day where, an average, teenager or something like that, or even in your 20s or 30s, most people are staring at their screens most of the day. So even though it may have been less, it's still the amount and quantity of time of exposure that is really starting to create a little bit of a stress on the retina. Wow.
Well, I have a 65-inch TV screen so I could read my computer easily, and that must be pouring out some ridiculous amount of energy. And I have these geo-wellness chips that I put on them, which mitigate some of the EMFs. Yeah. But I can still feel that radiation coming off of those screens. It's pretty powerful stuff. What are the frequencies for that?
Yeah, and they have the blue light filters now, which are great. On the screen, a lot of the computers and laptops and stuff like that come with again, the blue light filters, and those are really helping. But again, it's highly recommended that people either get blue light protection on their glasses if they wear spectacles, or just get clear glass. You can go on Amazon for like $20 or $30 and just get it almost looks like a sunglass with a yellow tint to it, and that'll protect.
Because I have yellow-tinted sunglasses for UV. Does that take out blue?
Mm-hmm. Only if it says blue light protection. So now you want both UV protection and blue light protection. They're two different types of filters.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm sure people that are in front of the screens are going to take that information to heart.
And they're actually doing that with contact lenses now. It's pretty cool. They already have contact lenses that are UV tinted to help with UV stress on the eyes, but now they're actually coming out with contact lenses that have blue light protection too. So they're taking it serious. It's good to see that Bausch & Lomb and a lot of these companies that manufacture contact lenses and glasses are really up on this and taking trying to help mitigate some of the damage that can be done by UV and blue light radiation.
what kind of damage can the sun do to the eyes, or in terms of types of ailments that it would cause?
Well, it's the same thing. The sun has the added it has blue light, but it also has UV radiation. As we know, over the last couple of decades, there's things with the ozone layer, and the sun's just a lot stronger than it used to be. I don't know how it was for you, but I remember going out as a kid. I never even needed sunblock. Be out all day and maybe have like a really light, slight, pinkish on my shoulders or something like that. Now you could barely go out for a half hour, an hour now without getting, like pretty strong sun. So I think it has a lot to do with the environment now. The strength of the sun, especially more in the summer months, is a lot stronger than it used to be. But yeah, we're really fighting against the UV rays. And, there's even a lot of talk about sunscreen having certain levels of toxicity to it and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, catch-22, where you want to, stay covered and protect yourself. And particularly the two areas that need most protection are our eyes and our skin. And when we talk about our body using the nutrients that we know are best for vision, like carotenoid antioxidants, which include things like beta-carotene, carrots, leafy greens, things like lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, what those actually do is they protect the body from UV radiation, particularly the skin and the eyes. Now, if we're deficient in those, our body is not going to be able to manage the radiation from the UV, from the ultraviolet rays and the blue light. So that's why it's important to keep that nutrition up level to help protect the eyes and secondarily the skin from things like UV and blue light damage.
Speaking of nutrition and stuff, like the minimum daily requirement for most vitamins put out by the FDA are subclinical.
Correct.
What would be the best amount of lutein and astaxanthin and zeaxanthin? How many milligrams a day would somebody take to have adequate protection?
It depends on the case. It really depends. So, and here's why. I'll do my best to explain a little bit. So there are recommended daily allowances for carotenoid antioxidants. But the caveat to that is people use different amounts of them, and you're going to use different amounts at different times of the year. For example, in the winter where you're not outside a lot, especially if you live up north, you're not getting as much sun exposure. You're not going to have that much of a demand for carotenoid antioxidants because there's not going to be the UV radiation, which is going to be chewing up. Your body's going to be utilizing more of that, as opposed to the summertime where your body may need more protection, so you have to up your levels of carotenoid antioxidants. And then again, it depends on each condition. So if you look at something like retinitis pigmentosa, macular degeneration, they're recommending anywhere from 5 to 25,000 IU a day of like retinol palmitate, lutein. They're talking about 4 to 20 grams. But we test all our patients. We check for carotenoid antioxidants because everybody's different. We couldn't find the right dose, and I frankly didn't want to guess. You know what I mean? I didn't want to guess to see where people were at. So we're actually checking the carotenoid antioxidants of patients to find out where they're at, and based on those findings, that'll dictate the quantity of which they need. But generally speaking, if you get a good antioxidant supplement with like lutein, zeaxanthin, MacuHealth is a really good brand that I like. They have a good reputation. Maintenance dose, we usually have people taking 1 or 2 of those a day. If you need a therapeutic dose, maybe like 3 to 4 a day.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Getting back to the screens, I got a question for you. I know when I look at the screen under regular colors, it kind of hurts my eyes because it's very bright. So I do inverse color. So everything that's white is black, and that. Am I still getting the same blue light when I have it on black screen like that?
You're getting the blue light, but you're reducing the flicker. So it's not as much strain on your eyes.
Right.
The more by inversing, either going white to black or yellow to black, that dramatically reduces the strain on your eyes.
Okay.
The less white you have on the screen, the less strain it is on your eyes.
Right. Okay. So do you still get blue light in black screen?
You'll still get, because it's an EM, it's still a frequency coming off. You're still getting the blue light emissions coming off the computer.
Okay. All right.
But it's better. It's definitely better if you're doing it like that.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And you'll see on your phone, a lot of them at night will go to a black light screen, and you can actually see it dim out. So when it goes to a blue light protection, the screen will dim, and that basically is in line with what you were just talking about. It's just not as bright, and when you reduce that intensity, less blue light's coming out, and you're having less damage to your or stress onto your retina and optic nerve.
Wow, that is so important information. I hope everybody appreciates that, because as we get older, your eyes are going to get bad. They are with the sun and all the computers everybody's on. It's a major thing.
And the LED lights too. That's another thing that's creating a lot of stress. And again, it's really energy efficient and it's really useful. But I've had a lot of patients coming in, and it's actually a lot stronger than the fluorescent lights that people had grown accustomed to, and they still irritate quite a few people. But the LED lights they're pretty strong too, and I suspect that the intensity of the brightness of those may give people some problems as well.
Well, speaking of that, what is the best kind of light bulb to use in your home?
We use the incandescents. It's amazing. They're kind of hard to get now. If you go to Home Depot or one of the hardware store places, they're all you can get pretty much right now are LED lights, just because they last so much longer and they're cost effective. But I always recommend incandescent, soft incandescent.
Right. I love the incandescent lights. I can't.
Yeah, nice soft, warm bulb is fantastic. Full spectrum is kind of hard to get to. My favorite is if you can get full spectrum incandescent. Online is probably where most people are going to have to go to get that.
Wow.
But,
okay. Yeah, I didn't know they had full spectrum incandescent. I've heard of full spectrum UV,
Yeah.
But they have incandescent. That's great.
Yep.
Dr. Mercola sells it at mercola.com.
Yeah.
Full spectrum incandescent.
So how long, what got you into doing acupuncture as an eye doctor? That's so strange.
Yeah. So what happened is I went to acupuncture school. I was back in acupuncture school in '94, and I had gone through the curriculum out in San Diego. I went to a college called Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. Great place to hang out for a couple of years in Southern California. And through the school program, we learned about all these amazing ways to help people with different health conditions, but there was really nothing on eye disorders or treating vision. When I lecture regularly about this, I go back and I show everybody I have 3 sides of notes from 3.5 years of my education. There's nothing there. So when I started practicing, about a couple years into practice, I had some patients with glaucoma and some eye conditions and macular degeneration and cataracts, and I kept looking to go back to my notes and going back to some of my textbooks, and there was little to no information there. And in my mind, I was like, well, if acupuncture can help with headaches, it can help with elbow pain, or it can help with menstrual cramps or allergies, why can't it help with vision? So I started asking those questions. And the more curious I got, the more it pushed me to do more research and search individuals who had some experience using acupuncture and Chinese medicine and herbs or whatever to help people dealing with these vision loss conditions. So it was really a quest. It was the more that I found there wasn't anything there, the more I realized that, hey, I needed to find this information for my patients. And secondarily, once I started gathering the information, it was the realization that this was a whole void in our profession, that nobody was really treating eyes, or there wasn't a lot. If there were may be a couple of people here and there. So I went to China to, kind of look into that, studied at a TCM, Chinese Medical Ophthalmology Hospital. I had gone to Europe and kind of sourced a couple other people who had been having some experience. And basically went on a mission to learn anything and everything I could about acupuncture systems inside of Chinese medicine that could help people improve their vision and recover and preserve their vision.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's amazing, because it sounded like you really had to do a lot of research to find this kind of stuff. And
it was a lot. It was a lot of research, and it was a lot of clinical trials.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, so I had to find something. It was like, okay, well, somebody said that this acupuncture system or these acupuncture points or this acupuncture protocol would benefit whatever eye condition. So it's like, okay, well, now I actually have to get some patients and try it, do the vision testing, treat the patients, do another series of testing to see if it actually worked. So it was kind of like my quest was to go through all these different acupuncture systems. Acupuncture is over 2,000 years old. In over 2,000 years, you got a lot of branches and a lot of styles of acupuncture. There's Korean acupuncture, Japanese acupuncture, French acupuncture, European acupuncture. There's so many styles of acupuncture. So I was going through all the different styles, and they all work. They're all great for different conditions. But my interest was to find the acupuncture systems and points that really got the best results for patients with vision. So that was a lot of the finding and sourcing what on paper or what in theory was going to get results, and then actually testing them to see what kind of clinical outcomes we got.
That's pretty amazing how you did that. And we're going to have a word from our sponsors right now. And you're listening to the Soul Traveler Healing Journey Show with Dr. Andy Rosenfarb, micro acupuncturist down in northern New Jersey. And here's Nell with our sponsors.
WIOX is supported by Mountain Flame in Arkville, featuring a range of products for home heating solutions. A variety of fireplaces, wood stoves, and gas and pellet stoves are available and on display. For sales and service, Mountain Flame in Arkville, warming homes since 1980. Details at mountainflame.com. WIOX is supported by the Catskill Mountain News, delivering news, features, arts, entertainment, and sports weekly since 1863. Available on newsstands by subscription or online at CatskillMountainNews.com. Catskill Mountain News, intensely local, uniquely personal.
You are listening to the Soul Traveler Healing Journey Show on WIOX Community Radio, live and local in the Catskill Mountains.
And do we have a weather report today?
As for today's Catskill Mountain weather, showers likely this afternoon, high in the upper 60s. Southeast winds 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Chance of rain 70%. Tonight, showers with a slight chance of thunderstorms. Some thunderstorms may produce heavy rainfall. Lows in the mid-50s. Southeast winds 10 to 15 miles per hour, becoming southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour after midnight. Chance of rain near 100%. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with showers likely in the morning, then mostly sunny in the afternoon. Highs in the upper 60s. Northwest winds 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 35 miles per hour. Chance of rain 70%. Tuesday night, mostly clear, lows in the mid-40s, northwest winds 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Wednesday, mostly sunny, highs in the lower 70s, southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour.
Okay, so we're looking at a nice-looking week, and you are listening to the Soul Traveler Healing Journey Show. And today we have an incredible, unique doctor that is dealing with eye diseases totally different than most doctors ever would think of. And his name is Dr. Andy Rosenfarb. And Andy, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So tell us how the mechanics of the microacupuncture works in restoring vision.
Great question. So when I first started doing this, it was like, okay, well, it increases blood flow to the eye, we think. Or it helps recover vision, probably. We didn't really have a mechanism. We just saw some of the results that patients had shown. Fortunately, about 8 years ago, I was contacted by a research team at Johns Hopkins University to do a research study on the acupuncture methods we're using. So we had that, and one of the best, it was a favorable outcome. We had about 52% results. But one of the best things about that research study was it actually showed mechanism of action and how acupuncture worked. We saw that it increased blood flow to the retina and the optic nerve. We saw that the specific acupuncture points lit up parts of the visual cortex in the brain, the part of the brain that processes vision. We saw parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex in the front of the head, where vision, interpretation of vision is processed, and that started to light up. So we really had these amazing information given to us through the research, showing that the dormant nerve cells are waking up, showing blood flow. We also know now that doing acupuncture increases stem cell activity by up to 10%. So when you're actually putting the needles in, you're stimulating the body's own stem cell that comes from your bone marrow and secondarily from your fat cells to drive those and direct them towards your retina and your optic nerve to start healing your eyes.
Wow.
So by increasing blood flow, reducing inflammation, and stimulating the stem cell activity, you're really getting a strong, powerful neurological healing response.
That is so cool.
Amazing.
That is lit, as the new term going around is.
It is lit.
It is lit.
Literally.
Yes.
They become lit.
That is so cool. Wow. I never understood how that worked, but you explained it so perfectly. What a great bunch of research you were involved with there at Johns Hopkins.
Yep.
Holy moly, that is really fascinating. I would imagine you must have written a couple of 2, 3, 4 books by now with this kind of research.
Yeah.
And when we had our last conversation, you did mention something that you wrote. Your last book that's just came out a couple of months ago is like the book for macular degeneration. Treatments or eye treatments for macular degeneration. What's the name of that book, Andy?
So I have 6 books. So the first book I wrote was called Healing Your Eyes with Chinese Medicine, and that was really to introduce the idea that acupuncture and Chinese medicine actually was able to do something for people who are dealing with eye conditions. Then after that, I got a lot of interest from acupuncturists, and I collaborated with some doctors in Beijing, and we wrote a clinical manual. Then after that, I wrote a couple of little mini books on the top conditions that I see. I help patients with macular degeneration, glaucoma, and retinitis pigmentosa. So we have like little mini books that explain how acupuncture works and what people can do for that. And then finally, about 2 years ago, we wrote the Micro Acupuncture 48 book, which is also a clinical book for acupuncturists, which explains one of the systems that I use, one of the main systems I've been using for the past 18 years or so, that we found to be tremendously beneficial in terms of helping people preserve and recover vision.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting, when I was in Beaver, West Virginia, having treatments with Dr. Per Ott, he told me that he was using only 24 points that he and his partner had discovered in Denmark before they moved to the United States back in the 90s. And you've expanded that now to 48. How did you find the other 24 points?
So here what I think was happening was this, based on what you're telling me, is there was always 48 points. I think the points that Per and Freddie Dahlgren, Freddie is the one of the main guys from Denmark who developed the system in the 80s, who then taught Per the system. Per had then taught me the system. So originally there were always 48 points. I think what Freddie and Per did is they figured out 24 of those 48 points got the best results with vision.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So so instead of using all 48, they isolated that 24 of those 48 points, approximately half. They didn't need the other half when they were treating eye conditions. Mm-hmm. That was only only necessary to use 24 to 48 points to get a positive result for people dealing with eye conditions.
Wow.
So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And here's another thing we talked about in our last chat. I had been doing micro acupuncture on myself since I saw Per. And it was good for about a year or two. And then I noticed after about a year or two, I wasn't getting any more, results, and my vision started getting worse. So I had gone to another acupuncture doctor, and he had done another probably 20 points on different places, and that wasn't the same protocol. I just see him once in a while, whereas Per, it was like, 5 times a day, 20 to 30 minutes a day type of thing. So how important is the delivery of how many times a day that you do the needles, and how come the needles will not work over a long time for the same points?
That's a great question. So my evolution of the system, and again, I learned this probably around 16, 17, 18 years ago, somewhere around there, I was seeing the same thing. So what was happening is we were getting patients that were coming in, and after a while, using the same points and the same protocols in everybody, we saw that after a time, it wasn't really getting the same result that it initially got. And there were a couple reasons for that. One is that people were plateauing, meaning that they were recovering as much vision as they could, and we maximized whatever vision we could get back. But then some people would decline and they'd come back, and we would expect that we'd do the same points and get vision back. But it wasn't happening. So I was kind of scratching my head. I was getting a little frustrated, like, why isn't this working the way it used to? And rather than just like being okay with it, it drove me to start to research the system a little bit more. And that's where, a lot of the work that I did came into play. We started playing around with some of the other acupuncture points in the system and adding some other modalities to it. And ultimately what we found is that some of the points that are active today aren't necessarily going to be active tomorrow. And some of the points that are active tomorrow aren't necessarily going to be active the next day. So we have to keep up and evaluate and audit the body or audit these acupuncture points on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're actually treating the right points. Because some of them, it's like switches. Sometimes they get flipped on, sometimes they're switched off. And if you're just doing the same protocol every time for every single person, you're not really evaluating which points are active and which points are inactive, ultimately which points need to be treated and which don't. So there is that protocol side to it that will get some result, but a higher level, a more, a deeper dive into this treatment strategy is really understanding the nature of the points being active and inactive and constantly reevaluating and checking in with patients with that.
Mm-hmm. So when points are not active anymore, how do you know which new points to use?
Well, that's what I train my students on and everything like that. There's a lot of ways to check. You could do things like applied kinesiology. We can do palpation. There are instruments and tools that can check for resistance, like electro point detectors that could find that. There are ways to check the pulse to see if points are active. There's a lot of ways that people can ascertain information about active points and non-active points, meaning active points, meaning points that would be beneficial if they're needled, and points that really won't do much. If you needle them, you're not really going to get a response from the body.
Right.
What is palpation?
Palpation, thank you. That's just touching the point. So you're kind of putting pressure. It's almost looking for like a tender area. Like if somebody rubs your neck and you're kind of like rubbing, that's the spot. It's like an area that's a little achy and a little sore. That indicates that's an active point that may need to be treated. So that's one of many ways. Palpation or touch is a way to ascertain that information about, again, finding a point that's active versus inactive.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Now, I noticed...
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned about bringing more oxygen to the eyes improves the vision. And when I was at the BioCare Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico, I had a hyperbaric chamber treatment every day for like 3 weeks.